food, health, and romanticism. We think we eat food, but for a long time, what we actually did was make it. Choosing ingredients, feeling the weight of vegetables that still carry soil. Taking up a knife and cutting slowly, waiting for the flame to catch, waiting for the smell to change, waiting for the flavor to deepen. You had to focus. You had to use your hands. Smell, listen, endure time. In that process, the mind gathered to one point, the senses came back to life, and you learned the strength of waiting. All of that process was an act in itself, not mere preparation, a time when mind and body took part together. Then, at some point, that process began to disappear. Processed food filled the supermarkets. Delivery apps replaced the kitchen. Meal kits and instant food sold off our time under the name of convenience. Only the result remained. Tear the package, heat it, eat. The process evaporated. Only the reward circuit was left. A food culture designed so that salty, sweet, aggressive flavors hit the brain fast. The stomach fills, so why does it feel emptier? Through food, we may be losing focus, the senses, and the capacity to wait. So we have to ask first, what do we even mean by healthy food? Healthy food speaks of two things at once. First, the body. Yaoshe Tongluan. Medicine and food share one source. The language of an age that believed eating was already a way of healing the body. The taste of ingredients not hidden by seasoning. What is in season? What has passed through careful hands? Depth made by time. A flavor the ingredient reveals on its own, one no chemical seasoning can imitate. But one thing is missing from that saying. For food to become medicine, someone has to make it as if it were medicine. And the mind. The romanticism in the act of making itself. The heart that sets a table with intention, for someone else or for yourself. The time in the kitchen when you are fully the one in charge. If Yaoshe Tongluan is the axis of the body, romanticism is the axis of the mind. The two are not separate. The attention you pour into preparation becomes part of the nourishment the food gives back. Slowness is not inefficiency. It is the point of what food does to a human being. And this romanticism has one condition. You must be able to decide for yourself what will be made. There is something no nutrition label can account for. I did not learn this as theory. I learned it through one person's food, with my body. I want to tell you about someone I knew. I called her Po Hong Mom. When I had just crossed into adulthood, she looked after me and cared for me with such warmth. I will tell you what her food tasted like, and why I've never been able to forget it. She had studied food properly. Ua Women's University, Department of Food and Nutrition, a real curriculum, the science of nutrition. Knowledge even people who love food rarely acquire in a systematic way. The world of ingredients she knew was one I did not know existed. But that is not why her food was what it was. She went to the market herself. Not a supermarket. A real market, where vegetables still held soil, where fish had not been sealed in plastic, where you could smell what was actually fresh. She walked slowly. She touched things, smelled them, put some back. This was not shopping. This was judgment. I never once saw her use MSG. She strictly avoided it because it masks the natural flavor of ingredients and makes you forget what true freshness tastes like. For her, it was simply out of the question when thinking about food. What gave her cooking its depth was time. And what that time held: fresh ingredients, meticulous cleaning and prep, water that was not tap water, stock is the base of everything, and her natural palate. For me, a kid from the mountains, her cooking was a shock. Everything was something I was seeing for the first time, tasting for the first time. I learned then what real food was. I also learned then that my palate was sharp. I could tell waters apart. I could tell when the order of cooking had changed. She was especially fond of me because I truly tasted what she made. She taught me her methods without holding back. It was the first and last time in my life I tasted food that was truly food. The first and last time I let taste and smell run free. Only after I lost it did I understand what I had been eating. And after that, when I entered the military, the food changed overnight. I could not swallow it. My body refused. So I forced it, filled my mouth, drank water, filled it again. Army meals had calories. They had nutrients. On paper, a soldier was being fed properly. But too much MSG made my head hurt and my stomach uneasy. Something was missing that no nutrition label had a column for. I regretted it. I used to live in poverty. I did not even know what healthy food tasted like. So why did I have to learn the taste of real food? Then, one morning, looking down at my tray in a mess hall, a word came to me, feed, as in what you give livestock. I thought of her then, of the table she used to set, a feast of rare care, not luxury, of the way she moved through a kitchen as if she had all the time in the world. Because in that kitchen, for those cooking hours, she did. There is a difference between being fed and being nourished. I learned that difference the hard way. She had never chosen her path. Society forced her into the roles of a wife and a mother. Like so many women of her generation, she was never given the chance to choose her own destiny. She had never been in love. Not once, not in the way the word is supposed to mean. And yet, in her kitchen, she was entirely romanticist. The careful choosing of ingredients, the slow prep, the mid-cook adjustments, tasting, reconsidering, adding something, deciding against it. This was not domestic labor. This was craft. The only domain in her life where she moved with complete authority. The only space where the result was entirely the product of her own decisions and her own attention. Her kitchen was her sovereignty. There is a saying in China, Kaimen Kijianchi, 7 matters when you open the door: firewood, rice, oil, salt, soy, vinegar, tea. The day begins by checking what the kitchen holds. The first page of a life opens in the kitchen. Her days were exactly like that. After I was discharged, I went back to visit her. She welcomed me, calling me her lucky charm. She said that ever since I started coming to her house, everything had gone well. She wanted us to be close like family again, just like before the army. But I left for her happiness. I knew an invisible hand was interfering with my life. By then, I had already survived 2 brushes with death. More than 30 years later, I still think of her whenever I look at food. Alone, poor, a life of lack. Cooking is a luxury. Eating has become something I do to stay alive. And yet, suddenly, I wanted to speak about the real food I once knew. There is something I do know. The time you pour into food is what the food gives back. She never explained that in words. She only showed it, every day in the kitchen. In the wait while stock simmered, in the bundle of vegetables she put back down, in those few seconds of tasting and thinking again. At that house, the table I was given was never careless. Not once. The most romantic thing I have ever known was that table. And she too, at least in that kitchen, was opening her day in a way she had chosen. Delivery grids. 10-minute guarantees. Meals designed not to be tasted, but to be consumed. Engineered for the reward hit, for dopamine, for the rating. The kitchen became an inefficiency to outsource. Cooking became a problem apps had solved. A generation that has never felt the weight of a proper knife. Never waited for something to be ready. Never made something from raw materials with their own hands, and eaten it. When was your last meal made with real care? Whether someone made it for you or you made it yourself, what did that person or you put into that time? Attention, time, heart? In an age when speed is an obvious virtue and waiting is treated as inefficiency, what are we losing through food? Why, while we fill up on calories and protein, do we feel more starved? Can food that has lost its process feed the body and still nourish the person? We who outsource the kitchen whole, where do we practice sovereignty? Where do we learn romanticism again? The slowness and attention she showed in her kitchen. How do we take them back into our hands now? Food, in the end, is the most ordinary mirror of how we exist for ourselves and for each other. What kind of meal will your next one be?